guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be starting the engine build on the BMW S52. When we build this engine, we're going to start from the bottom up. Today we'll be installing the crankshaft. Now when we're installing this, there's going to be a couple specialty tools that we need. Some of these specialty tools are an outside diameter micrometer, which will measure the outside journals of the crankshaft itself. We'll have a dial bore gauge, which will measure the inside diameter of things, and our bearings. We have a couple extra things like a torque wrench, some thread chasers, and our ARP hardware. So I'm gonna go through step by step on how to measure all these clearances and get this crankshaft installed in that engine. Let's go. Okay, so first we're going to start by talking about the main housing bore. This is your main housing bore right here. And for the S52, there's a specific limit, which I'll pop right over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure. We're going to put that measurement, anyone, 2.3630. Say we put that in. This had an align hone done to it. So I could put 2.3630 in my micrometer. Okay. Once I get that in there, I'll get the dial bore gauge, zero it out, and then get the reading over here and see how much bigger it is compared to that 2.6330 reading. But this is a little over the service limit. I was getting way over 2.3650, which is a little too much, but I ended up swapping bearings and going with the oversized bearing to combat that. But with that, I was still getting tight clearances, so I'll be putting all standard bearings in this engine. And if you don't know anything I just said, let me show you. You can skip this part if you want, but we're going to start off by talking about measurements. So you have these amount of places when I'm taking clearances. So say 2.36, did I say 50? So when someone says, so this is your 10,000, or this is your tens, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. So if you have a measurement of 1 thou, that'd be 1,000ths. So it's 0.001 1,000ths. And they say 1.5 thousandths, 1.5 thousandths. So that's how these are usually measured. And with the main housing bore, once that cap is tightened down, it's supposed to be a perfect circle. So when I get an align hone done, this has to be a perfect circle. And once I put the bearings in, the bearings won't be completely circle. There's an oval shape to the bearings, and that's to provide an oil wedge. When you're buying bearings, you're gonna see a couple different options. So you have your standard, which is everything is normal. You have your HX, which is the same thing as the standard, but in the bearing on the inside, it's gonna be opened up a little bit. So instead of it being like this, it might be like that, a lot thinner, so it'll allow more inside diameter for extra oil clearance. Oversized, when you go oversized, this is usually when you get an align hone. For the bearing, let me just provide half. So this is half of a bearing. You're gonna have more material on the back end, which sits on the block. So this is the block here, and there'll be more material on this side to compensate for oil being removed from the block of the engine. Then the underside is the opposite. So underside, you're going to have more material on the inside, and this is to compensate for getting material removed out of your crankshaft. Now with that being said, what we're going to do is put all the caps on. I'll be doing standard bearings. So the machine shop what they ended up doing was giving me oversized bearings and saying my clearance was at about 2.4, like 2.5 thou, which is 0.0025. So I took it home, I measured it, and I brought it back to them because that's not what I was getting. They remeasured it, and you can see they're getting 1.8. I don't know if you can see it on there. 1.7, using those oversized bearings. So I'm gonna go back to standard bearings. I went to this machine shop, and I don't know where they got these readings from, even though they use these expensive $5,000 machines, and they still didn't get the same readings as me. I used some cheaper equipment, got my readings, brought it back to them, and then they got the readings that I got with this. So yeah, always double check your work at the machine shop. But let's go ahead and start by putting the ARP studs, the cap, and the hardware. Okay, so first I'm gonna get some compressed air, clean all these out. These are where oil will travel through, these little galleys, these holes. Let's get a clean cloth. And we're gonna wipe down all these journals. We're gonna wipe down all these bores. So make sure to wipe down these saddles as well, because this is what your main cap will. This will be the surface, mating surface for your main caps. So. On the S52, we have these oil squirters. So we're going to install these in these little locators. Let me get some light so you can see. So on the S52, we have these oil squirters. What we're going to do is just clean them out. Shit. These don't use nothing fancy. These don't have any bolts or anything fancy to hold them in. They just sit in the housing. I'm gonna using this. Perfect. Next on the list, we're going to start installing our bearings. So as I said, I'll be using, oh no, we're not. Yes we are. We'll be installing bearings. So I'll be using standard bearings. You can see by the last 3 letters. The way to identify these bearings is on the back end of the bearing. You'll have the part number on there. This has HX on it, and I know this camera doesn't have the closest focus, so I'll put up a picture right here. So that'll have standard, and then these have 0.025 on them, which I'll put up over here. Most websites you can't return them, so. On these bearings, you're gonna see a discoloration. That would be the coating. So So on these ACL bearings, you'll see a discoloration on some of them. I think they're really noticeable on, oh, yeah. Here you go. You got like a discoloration going on. That's normal for ACL bearings, especially when you clean them off. When they're brand new, you could just clean them off with some rubbing alcohol or brake cleaner, and it'll be very noticeable. That's normal for these bearings, so you don't have to worry about that. What I'm gonna do now is get some rubbing alcohol, load it up in a cup. Just dip the bearing in there, and then wipe it off with that towel. Get all these clean. The bearings are clean. So the next thing we're gonna do is install the ARP main studs. So these are them right here. What I'm gonna do is apply lubricant to both sides. Some people use a light coating of oil on the bottom side that goes into the block. Some people don't. Some people put them in dry, but I like to put a coating of the fastener assembly. So I like to put a coating of the provided lubricant. Usually when you get these, they'll come in a pack like this, but I end up just buying the whole thing. So put some on there, and I usually take a toothbrush and get it all inside the threads. On the stud, you'll see one end is completely smooth, and then the other end has the other end you could put an Allen key on it. So the Allen key is going to face away from the threads. So Allen key up. Just going to start that by hand. And one thing, this whole project that we're doing, we're not using power tools. Everything is either by hand or hand tools. We did it a while ago, but it doesn't hurt to clean the threads out and chase them. What you could do is get a bolt and then just take an angle grinder and just cut just a straight line on there. But before I do all this, I take a thread chaser and just clean out all the threads. But I already did all that, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Now when it comes to installing these, ARP recommends hand tight. These, you're not supposed to torque these down or even just snug them down with tools like that. You usually just take them hand tight. What I like to do is back it off probably about a quarter way, just like that. Next up is the main cap. So same thing, we're gonna make sure that this is clean. I could already see some of the ARP lube on there. So now on this S52 block, they're numbered. I think except the last two caps, 6 and 7, but they'll be numbered on here. And then there's, all of them have a number 22 for some reason on here. So the 22, just for reference, if your engine is upside down like this 22 is going to be facing where the water pump goes. Now next up, these studs, or these main studs, they could be used on a couple different BMWs. For the S52, just recommended to either take the stud and back it out a couple to give you clearance, or not run the washer. So what we're gonna do is not run this washer. Now, if you do run the washer, what you're gonna do is make sure that this surface of the cap is clean, the bottom of the washer is clean, and you're gonna put lubricant on the top of the washer and on the bottom of the nut, just like that. So lubricant, lubricant, dry, and dry. The reason you want to do that is so you could prevent the washer from rotating with the nut. But I'm not going to be using those washers. I'll just be using the nut. So what we're going to do is apply lubricant on the face of the cap and on the bottom of the nut. Oh shit, I didn't put the bearings in yet. Okay, so let's take this back out. Bearings, you got to put the bearings first. So I'm gonna change my gloves. So the bearings, they are all directional. So you'll see there's one with holes in them, ones with no holes. The ones with the holes, and you can see too after I clean them, they're discolored. So anyways, with the holes, you're gonna see on here there's a tang, like a receiver groove, and then on the bottom of the bearing you'll see a receiver groove here. And I'll put up a closer photo too, because I know this. Oh shit! I know this. This camera doesn't like to focus. Bearings are clean. We're ready to install them. Let's get some compressed air. Every bearing I'm gonna hit with compressed air. So some people, they like to put a little lubricant on the bottom end of it. Some just don't even clean it, leave it. I like to clean it and install it dry. And just to double check, we have our oil squirters all in there and they were cleaned. So just looking for any excess of the that microfiber. A little towel. Okay. So I'm gonna line up this tang with that. Just push it down. Square it up. And now that I'm doing it too, it would be smarter to install all the bearings and then install the studs, just so you don't have a chance of nicking the back of the bearing on the stud. So I'm gonna go ahead, install all the bearings. When I install them, hit them with compressed air, install all the studs, and I'll be right back. With the studs out, I can show you how I put these bearings in. So, and you could even see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's dust on the back of them. So, blow it out. Okay, so this is the side with the tang. So let's get a little dust on there. Just let it sit down in there. Now I use this finger. I just rest that finger over there, side with the tang. Just push it in. Once it's in, I put pressure on both sides. Square it up. So that's all for that. Now I'll see you when I got everything installed. So I have all the half shells for the main bearings and the studs are all in. The only issue is, well, as I said earlier, I like to tighten it, back it out a quarter, but for some reason this one's really tight. And the thing is too, if I swap them out, this will still be tight, because I ended up getting the OEM main bolt. I threaded it in here. It's perfectly fine. But I'm just gonna keep going. So in like 10 videos from now, if you see the engine blown up, that's probably why. Just for future reference, you know. So another thing too is the reason why I keep using this compressed air is for all the little things of dust and dirt. And I don't know if you could pick it up, but there was a piece of dirt on the bearing. I went to wipe it and it ended up scratching the bearings. Oh, hold on. There you go, you see it? Right there. But these bearings, it will do that. I mean, it's not ideal to have that, you know, something scratch like that on your bearings, but these bearings are ideal. Once I start using the dial bore gauge, it'll make that same scratch on the bearings. But it just shows you how easy it is to nick a bearing, even when I was just trying to clean it, and it does that. So let's go ahead and get these main caps on, the bearings on the main cap, and then they should be ready to torque down. As I said, the bearings are numbered. There's a number stamped on it. So what we're gonna do is wipe that down first. Let's get a clean cloth. And another thing too, I think I said it earlier, to make sure that this mating surface and the saddles are clean when you're putting these bearings on, or when you're putting the caps on. And what I didn't mention earlier is this right here. So when you're installing these bearings, you're just gonna give it some, you know, like a wiggle here and there. Just make sure that there's no play, because when these sit, essentially the bearing is being compressed in, and it's just wedged into the main bore. That's the only thing that's holding it in. So if you got your block machined in that main tunnel was too big, and you have your bearing is moving, you know, freely in there, you can't use that. That's not good. You might have to trash the block or do something. So that's one thing worth noting. And while you install these bearings, these are interference fit. So same thing for the bearings. Once they're in there, make sure they don't move around loosely. They should just be an interference fit, so pop right in there. But let's get back to it. On the bearing, there's these tangs. On the main cap, there's the tangs. So just line it up, just like that. Just squeeze it in. Boom. So this is 1. This is 2. So you see this side is sticking up a little bit more. This side is sticking up more than this side, so evenly distribute pressure on both sides, even though this one's not really working. Hold on. There you go. Just use your finger to make sure that they're both flush. So get these guys in, squeeze it down. One thing to note too is the sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the sixth one is going to be your thrust bearing. Even this one, for fact, well, when I took this apart, the thrust bearing was on this location. But according to, I know ChatGPT said that it would be number 5, and it gave me a reference that of the TIS service menu that it's number 5. but every video and every reference on like Facebook and YouTube I see, it's number 6. So I'm gonna go with number 6. Plus that was the same thrust bearing location, that, you know, same location when I take apart the engine. So that's another possible failure point in a future video. Once again, this little 22 or whatever, 27, whatever, this is going to be on the water pump side, and then the caps are numbered 1 through 7, except 6 and 7. But when I took it apart, I wrote those numbers down. You see, it's kind of tight. I don't know. Questionable. I think this was the problem. One. And the reason too is why I back it out a quarter turn is sometimes if the thread, if you bottom it out, if you bottom this out, it might be biased to one side or another. This is over exaggerated, but if you back it out, it won't be biased. It'll stay straight up. Okay, now we're gonna put the nuts on. Let's grab all of these. Let's grab all of these. And as I said, being that I'm not using the washer, I'm gonna just put some over here on the cap itself. What the fuck? I feel like this is my type of luck. There you go. Don't like that. Why is it so hard? What the fuck? Did I just get a bad batch of hardware? But let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Yeah, this one's going on nice now. So maybe you're the problem. This one's the problem. I might run a chaser through that. Oh, this one too. No, this one's good. Yeah, I might run a chaser through that one and see why it's being like that. There we go. There we go. Much better. We're gonna torque this down. Torque sequence is 20, 40, 60 per ARP. If you get an ARP, once you get the hardware, they tell you the torque sequence somewhere. 3 equal steps to 60 foot-pounds. So it's 20, 40, 60. Now when you torque this down, it doesn't matter the torque sequence because there's no crankshaft in it, but it's still good practice to work from the middle outwards. But I'm not going to do that because I don't care. I'm going to start from here and just go straight down just so I don't lose track of anything. This one is the audible type of torque wrench. There's other ones like that one, which is a click type, but for engines I like using the one that beeps. Okay, so we're going to tighten this down. Use my foot to prop the engine so it doesn't start rolling around. Get it secure, and I'm gonna put one hand on where the nut is and the stud, and the other one's at the end of the handle. So I'm gonna go one constant sweeping motion, because you're gonna try not to do this and then load it back up. So load it up. There you go. You'll hear beep, 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 and then once you hear a beep, like a long beep, that means it's good to go. Okay, 20 foot-pounds is done. Gonna bring this up to 40, torque it, then 60, and then torque it. So one thing I noticed when I was torquing this down, I got up to 40 foot-pounds right around here. But what I noticed is when I was torquing it, it would torque, and then go quick, and then keep torquing. So that means that when I loosened it a quarter turn, it's bottoming out. So one thing from ARP is they don't even say to back it out a little bit, they say hand tight. And being that I'm torquing it down all the way, it's turning more like a bolt than a stud, which is not what I want. So what I'm gonna do is undo all these, run the washers, and then just, rather than a quarter turn out, I'll give it maybe like 3 turns just to compensate for the thickness of the washer. Okay, so I'm gonna back these studs out a little bit, and I can draw to you exactly what I'm doing, just in case you have a BMW S52. This is gonna be dry. I'm gonna put a washer. Now the bottom of that washer is gonna be dry. The top face of the washer is gonna be wet. And then here's the ARP nut. The bottom face is gonna be wet. So over here will be wet, which will allow easy rotation. Down here will be dry, which will prevent this from rotating, the washer rotating on the stud, and hopefully will prevent the nut from, or the stud from, doing that motion that I did before. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll try it, see if it works, and I'll let you guys know. Okay, so here's an update. I have all of the washers on, getting ready to torque it, and what I'm trying to do is get the stud flush with the nut. So what I ended up doing was holding the tightening the nut, and then using this Allen key to back it out, just so it becomes flush with the nut. Another thing too is the washer. There's an orientation for the washer. This washer right here. So if you zoom in on the washer, it's not gonna be like this. One face is gonna have a bevel, so it's gonna look more like this. So this side is gonna face the engine block, or the cap, and this side is gonna face the oil pan. All the main caps are torqued down now, and I ended up taking a paint marker and making little marks to see what moved relative to what. And the washer didn't move, which is good. That's me not using the lubricant underneath. So the washer didn't move, the nut moved obviously, and the stud sometimes would move a little bit with it. So see over here how it's offset, so the nut moved a little bit more than the stud, so that's good. And that also means that the studs are not bottomed out, which is mainly what I wanted. So now we have that all torqued down. We're gonna need to measure the oil clearance, which is the clearance between this journal and then the bearing. And for the ones that need to visualize it, this is that bore. This is gonna be the bearing. And then your crankshaft is gonna sit, oh shit, I'm not even, so the crankshaft, I wasn't even facing the whiteboard properly. But look, so this is your crankshaft right here. And then this, with the lines, is the journal, which what we're trying to figure out is this between it. This is gonna be your oil clearance. BMW, the oil clearances are usually really tight, but what I'm aiming for is about 2.3, at most 2,500. 0.0025. That's the oil clearance that I'm trying to target. There's a whole debate on what's good to target. Depends on your power level, because the crankshaft does flex, and this greater oil clearance would give you more oil pressure or more oil available to, everything, connecting rods, all of that. But if you have too much oil clearance, that could also be an issue too, because stuff will start, the oil won't really be able to do its job because the gap will be too big. But that's a whole video to talk about oil clearance. So we're gonna get the measurement of the oil clearance. So what we're gonna do is start with this first one. I'll walk you through it, and then off camera I'll bang all of them out. You're gonna need the crankshaft for this, and you're gonna start off by using your outside micrometer. As I said, we're gonna measure this first journal, and the main journals are all in line. So journal, main journal, main journal, main journal, and the connecting rods are offset. So this one, this one, this one, this one, those are all for the connecting rods. Let's clean that off. And these aren't always perfectly round. I know this one isn't, wear and tear, but I did get this polished. So you're thinking, why aren't you measuring it? But every time you use a micrometer, you get this snug. You don't want to make it too tight to have the whole tool distort. We're gonna zero that out. So that is a 2 to 3 inch to match this journal. So we're gonna get the 2 inch. Get another clean cloth. Shit. We're gonna clean this end, this end. And we're gonna clean this calibration thing. When I zero it, I take my finger like that, and I use that to press upwards on it. So I'm pressing that way. Right, so I'm using my finger to press up just to keep a flat surface, and then grabbing it here and pushing it like that. So you want it to stay flat. You're gonna focus on this end instead of this end. So focusing on making it straight and flat. Now this has a clutch in it, so it won't go over tight. See how it stopped? And let's try it again. That's not perfectly at 0. And stuff like this is more about getting used to how it feels. So now we have the micrometer zeroed. What we're gonna do is get the outside diameter measurement of this first journal. So same thing how I zeroed this gauge out, it's more about feel. So loosen this up. Thought I brought a chair in here, but I guess not. Okay. So what you're gonna want to do is just give it a look. I can't describe it. You really gotta do it. Give it a sweeping motion to find the greatest area. Once you think you found it, you lock this. See, that doesn't feel like. It's just, that's probably why, because I was on that I was on this little oil galley. You can see little specks of dirt. So let's go ahead and spray this again with brake cleaner. Nice wipe down. Let's clean these ends. So let's go ahead and do it again. So you're gonna give it, tighten it as you're feeling it, up and down, back and forth. There you go. That feels good. Oops, don't mind the sound. So what you don't want to do is tighten it to the point where it's just, you tighten it and it's just stuck there. You want it to drop and fall. You want it to be not too tight, just snug. So see how it's still falling if I let go completely? So that's what you want. You don't want too loose though, but just snug. Okay. So now we have the measurement for that journal. Let's put it back in the vise. You don't have to go too tight so you don't distort the tool. Now we're going to use our dial bore gauge. So there's a couple of different kinds you could get. This is a 5/10,000ths resolution. I have this one. This is a half a thou, 0.0005 resolution. So I'll be using the one that gets to the 10,000ths place, 1/10,000ths, just because it's more. There's more resolution to it, and we'll be able to really get an idea of the oil clearance. So let's go ahead and grab one of the dies. Sure that this is locked. Too tight. And you could really dial what size you have. Say there's 2.6, 2.4. Say you need something in the middle. There's also additional spacers to add to it, which we might need. Who knows? Let's yeah. Perfect. So this is good. And let's clean up the ends on this. Some brake clean. Okay. And same thing for this. If you want a tutorial on how to use these tools, I can make it. Now this tool was zeroed out, and now it has the outside diameter of this first journal. So now what we want to do is you want to zero this out to this outside diameter. So same thing, I'll be using my finger over here to act as a plane, and then I'll give it a sweeping motion up and down. Oh, it's maxed out. Hold on, it's not good. Yeah, so just like how I said, you could use those spacers. That's what I might do. So you could grab this tiny spacer. Perfect. Okay. So this is zeroed in. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a measurement, horizontal or vertical, and get a vertical measurement. So we're not going to get it in this oil groove. See that groove right in there? You're not going to get it in there. We're just going to get it. Hold on, let me show you. So we're going to measure on this area. We're not going to measure in this oil groove. We're going to measure here. And if you want to, you could take other measurements, like one here, one here, but what I'm gonna do is just get one over here, because being that with the bearing, the measurement is gonna change, because when the engine is running from here and here, this will open up and then this will shrink. So what you'll find is when you measure it as is right now, like this measurement might be bigger than this measurement, but when the engine is running, it's gonna open up and then this is gonna close up. You can't control it. It's not not perfect. Okay, so let's see what we get. Getting about 221. Oh, not here we are. About 2 thou. Let's go a little. See how this is a little bit bigger now? We're reading about 2.5. What I could do, if I want to open it a little bit more, is mix bearings. So I have these HX bearings, which will allow more oil clearance. So I could go back to this and give you a breakdown on how it is. So I'm getting 0.0022, and this is good clearance for me. I'm fine with that. This is 2.5 was the goal. Now that's me using standard bearings. I still have HX 0.025, and then I got like this undersized and oversized for this one. So what I could do is, if I'm running this standard, I could run, this is the main, so say this is the bearing, right? This, I don't know what that was. Hold on. Alright, so this is the top of the engine, and this is the bottom by the oil pan. If I want to open this up a little bit more, I could run HX bearings. But if I run HX, I took a measurement before with both all HX, and it was 0.0035, which is too much for me. I don't like that. HX is usually 1/1000th bigger of a bearing, so I would be about 0.0032, which is too much for me. But you could do that. If I say I wanted to do 0.0032, I could run, I hope this light's not annoying, I could run the HX bearing on the oil pan side. So this will be the HX, then this will be the standard, and then that'd be a way for me to achieve a bigger oil clearance. And say I wanted to tighten it up a little bit, that I wanted to 22 was too tight. What I could do is I could put the standard on the bottom, and then the 0.25 to make it tighter would go up top. So whatever you could mix them however. So you could run HX at the bottom, which would be the main cap. On the actual main cap, you could run that, and you could run the standard, or you could run a standard on the main cap side, and then on the block side you could run a 0.25 tighter. And these usually get you about 5/10,000ths tighter. So if I run this half, get me that much tighter. So say I ran, say I ran this, I would be at 0.0017. And that's actually where I was before when I showed you this on here. 17, you got 1718. That's when I was running this combo, which was too tight for me. So now I'm running both standard. And if I want to open it more, on the oil pan side, I could run the HX to get this 3.2. But this should be good. I'm fine with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure all these, document it. And one thing too, which I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, the standard is 68 degrees. All of these tools, what I do is I leave the lid open and I let it stay, everything, the engine, the tools, everything stay in the same environment for a couple hours before I start taking measurements on it. Because I don't want to have this tool inside, and this tool's a different temperature than that tool. I'll just mess up all my readings. So ideally what you want to do is be inside working at 68 degrees, but we can't. I'm outside. Well, I'm in a garage in 58 degrees, which is fine. But let me go ahead, take the rest of these measurements, document them, and we'll get this crankshaft installed. Everything is good with the crankshaft. I ended up measuring everything, wrote it down, documented it. The only issue we had was I think the 7th main cap was 31 and 28, which was too big. So I ended up taking this half. Remember the cap, you leave the bigger bearing on the cap. So I took the 0.025 cap, the 0.025 bearing, and I put it under here to tighten it up. So it went from 31 and 28 to 24 and 22, or 24 and 23 with that bearing. So we're looking around, I guess on an average we're looking at about 24, almost 2.5 thou for the main oil clearance bearing. So that's perfect for me. Now crankshaft is cleaned up. I just used some brake clean, take it, sprayed everything through all the oil galleys, compressed air, dusted it off. That's out of air, so can't use that no more. But we're gonna install the crankshaft now. And one thing to make sure to do when you install this, especially by yourself, I mean if you have someone to help you it's different, but I'll be doing all this by myself, is to take these studs out. So while you're installing the crankshaft, you don't have this stud nick any of the journals. So let's get this removed. It is about 4 a.m. So I'm gonna have to use some power tools to speed this process. We're gonna use some, I know some people use ATF light oil, like a light oil film, especially when they have to measure the crankshaft end play, but I'm gonna use Lucas. This stuff, I always use it. Never had any issues with it, so we're gonna coat the all the bearings. Make sure to wear gloves too, because this stuff is a pain if it gets on you. Oh, that works. Okay. Okay, from here, you might be tempted to spin the crankshaft, but try to avoid that because of all the distortion right now. You don't want to spin it. Anything. Just leave it as it is. Put the studs, torque it down, then you can spin it and see how it feels. Get these guys back in. All the main studs are in. What I did as a general thing is, I don't know if I said it earlier, I just tighten them down and then 1, 2, 3.5. Yeah, I think I said that. Alright, so let's get the main caps put on. So, as a reminder, they're all labeled 1 through 5 and then 6, 7. 6 is the thrust, 7 is not even labeled, so let's get that put on. And the 22 faces the water pump side. All right, so crankshaft is in. These are seated or pushed in all the way, you know, the best of me in my hand. It is 5 in the morning, so running out of, well, we already ran out of time like 7 hours ago, but what we're gonna do now is torque everything down 20, 40, 60. Before we do that, it's gonna give it a nice little hit. Won't hit that reluctant wheel. What this is doing is it's just setting the whole crankshaft in, just everything, just, you know, letting everything sit properly. And I'll hit this. I'll put this pry bar on the pilot bearing because I'm gonna be replacing it anyways. But just go back and forth a couple times just to seat everything. Oh fuck. Okay, maybe don't do it on the pilot bearing. I think it felt like the bearing pushed in a little bit more, so I was getting replaced anyway, so it's not an issue. So now that's set. Yeah, go ahead, torque this down. I can't find the torque sequence for this, so what I'm gonna do is work from the middle outwards, just as a generic thing that you do for everything, oil pan, valve covers, all that. So I'm gonna start boom, 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 boom. Crankshaft is all torqued down, turning it by hand just to see if I feel any unusual binding. Also, this has been a line hunt, so it should be on point, but I don't feel anything that would raise any red flags. Alright guys, it's the next day. All we have left to measure to get this crankshaft fully installed and good to go is the end plate. Now this is your thrust bearing clearance. So this clearance it's also called your crankshaft end plate or your axial plate, and it's the movement your crankshaft has in the block itself. So the block is stationary and the crankshaft will move like this in this plane, back and forth. The reason we want to measure this is to prevent crankshaft walk, which is excessive movement that way, which is excessive movement back and forth, and this could cause damage to your thrust bearing, which is over here on this main cap, the crankshaft surfaces on here, and could also damage the transmission. So if we have too little clearance, this crankshaft could expand and bind with all the metal in here. If it's too loose, that would also be bad because it could just hammer on each other, everything moving back and forth, which is not good. So essentially we're just trying to prevent damage to the bearings, damage to the crank, and possible oiling issues. So for this S52, these are some of the numbers I found. They're not reliable, so don't copy them. You can copy them if you want, but this is for the S52. This wasn't a reliable source, so I looked up an M52 and I got both of these off Google. So I'm guessing if I'm somewhere, I guess 4 or 5, I should be good. So I'm gonna show you guys how to get this measurement done. What you're gonna need is, from your same dial bore gauge, you're gonna use the indicator. It unscrews from here, and this is basically the contact tip that we're gonna use to get this measurement. This is a tool. This is free. This isn't mine. This has a magnetic base on it, so we're gonna get it right over here. And I actually did already have this set up, so let me mess it up a little bit. Got the magnetic base. Gonna lock it down. Now it's on there. So what we're gonna do is get this contact point to right at the edge of the crankshaft at a flat surface. I took the crankshaft bolt out just so the surface, I feel like the surface is a little more true than the bolt. But all we're gonna do is just play with all these adjustments. Get that on. Now once it's not on it, it's close though. So there's this fine-tune adjustment right here, which will essentially push this arm into the crankshaft. See if I take it out, it's not touching it. If I tighten it down, it's touching it. Now when it comes to something like this, everything is really sensitive. Like if I just touch anything, everything is gonna move. So you can't even, you can try to zero it out, but it's really hard. So what you usually do is use this adjustment to zero it out. So I'll just leave it wherever it lands. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a pry bar. We're not just gonna start prying it up back and forth, really, you know, wherever. We're gonna pry it forward from back here, and then we're gonna pry it backwards, right between this cap and the crankshaft. So let's go ahead. Let's pry it forward first. Okay. Where's it at? It's at 1.8. It's at 18 right now. And we're gonna pry it the other way. Be careful of the journals, almost hit the journal. So now we're at about 31. So now we find the difference from 18 over here to the 31. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 thou. Roughly 5 thousandths, and it falls within all the specifications, so should be good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and do it a couple more times just to verify. So let's push it this way. Getting 34. Let's push it backwards now. Oh, crankshaft moved. And we're getting about 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I say? 30 what? I think I said 35, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, about 5 thou. So that falls within. So that falls within the specification. So the crankshaft end play is good. Also, off camera, what I ended up doing was taking everything back out again, and I swapped the bearing, these two bearings on these caps, because the first cap, this cap was reading 20, roughly 20, 22, and then this one is reading 25, 24. So this was a little bit more tight than this one. So all I did was switch the two top caps. So now they should equal out. This probably both are on 23 now. So good to go. Let's go ahead and take this out. Perfect. Another reason, I don't know how accurate it could be, is if there is too much end play, the reluctor might not be able to pick up the signal. You might not be able to get a signal from the reluctor wheel. That's all for now, people. Crankshaft is installed. Oil clearances are perfect. Crankshaft end play perfect. Everything is within specification. Brand new bearings installed. Brand new mainstays installed. Should be good to go. Next up, we'll be installing the connecting rods and pistons. No, I lied. Next, we're gonna be filing piston rings. That'll be the next video. Then after that, we'll deal with the rods and all that. Currently, I don't know if I said it early in the video, but I'm still doing, here's a sneak peek of the E92 brake system that I'm swapping into it right now. Got a bunch of parts. I got a couple more coming out, so the videos are being held back a little bit. More engine content coming, and we have more chassis content coming, so that's all.